Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you spend, say, $20 manufacturing this sleek, brand new wireless charger, you might look at a $60 retail price and think, I've got a license to print money.
Oh, absolutely. It looks great on paper.
Right. But the reality,
Right.
by the time that charger actually lands in an American warehouse, you've got these invisible tariffs, customs brokers, and hazardous material fees that will have just completely devoured half your profit before you've even paid for a single ad.
Yeah, and that is assuming the customer actually keeps the device once they get it, which is a huge if.
Right, yeah.
In consumer electronics, you're often looking at a reality where 1 in 4 of those chargers get shipped right back to you. And that just eats whatever tiny margin you had left.
It's brutal. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to deconstruct what it really takes to build, launch, and run a profitable electronics brand on Shopify.
It's a wild ride.
It really is. So the source material we are working from today is this highly practical, incredibly dense B2B operator's playbook. It's called Gadget Shopify Store. And look, whether you're an aspiring e-commerce entrepreneur sketching out a business plan, someone who already works in tech, or just an insanely curious consumer, this deep dive is going to completely change how you look at those targeted Instagram ads for, smart wallets or mechanical keyboards that just constantly follow you around the internet.
Yeah, you really won't see them the same way again. The playbook is fascinating, honestly, because it treats consumer electronics as an entirely different beast from general e-commerce.
It's not just selling T-shirts.
Exactly. Selling gadgets requires this very specific operational mindset. You can't just take an apparel strategy and, slap it onto electronics. The initial hurdle, well, before you even think about marketing or ads, is understanding that the specific category of gadget you choose fundamentally dictates your business model and, frankly, your failure points.
All right, because selling a smart home security hub versus selling like a braided charging cable, it's like selling a car engine versus a cup holder. The post-purchase support for the smart hub is just a nightmare compared to a simple cable.
That distinction is critical.
Yeah.
The playbook specifically highlights install failure returns as this massive margin killer in the smart home space.
Wait, what exactly is an install failure?
So an install failure means the hardware itself works perfectly, there's no defect, but the customer just cannot figure out how to bridge it to their, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. So they get frustrated, they give up, and they initiate a return. The merchant then has to eat the shipping cost, and usually they have to turn around and sell that opened item at a deep discount, all because of user error.
That's agonizing. And it's not just smart homes, right?
No, not at all. Then you look at wearables, like those smart fitness rings. The technology inside might be completely bulletproof, but your primary enemy suddenly becomes sizing logistics.
All right, people ordering the wrong size constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And audio tech. Audio tech brings its own bizarre legalities into the mix. Like, if you sell earbuds, you're suddenly dealing with hygiene returns.
Yeah, the hygiene rules are strict because once that factory seal is broken and those earbuds have literally been inside someone's ears,
Yeah.
many jurisdictions have actual health codes saying they absolutely cannot be resold as new. So if your return policy doesn't explicitly account for open seals, you are absorbing a total loss on every single return.
Which directly ties into the raw economics outlined in the source. Because if you're just reselling other brands' electronics, your gross margin is typically pinned somewhere between 20 to 35%.
Best case scenario, usually.
Right. Now, if you take the risk to build your own private label brand, you push that to maybe 45 to 60%.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to subtract those industry-wide return rates of 15 to 25%. So this is the math hitting a brick wall for me. If a quarter of your revenue just vanishes to returns, how does paid advertising even work?
Honestly, a lot of times it doesn't. Yeah, the playbook lays down a very strict mathematical rule for this. If your blended gross margin is under 30% and your return rate is over 20%, paid acquisition simply fails. Just mathematically breaks.
Because the ads are too expensive.
Exactly. The mechanism is that your customer acquisition cost, your CAC, it's always going to outpace the lifetime value of that customer. You just cannot buy Meta or Google ads out of a hole that deep. The ad platform takes your money the second they click, regardless of whether the customer returns the item 2 weeks later.
So you just bleed cash.
Yeah, you bleed cash. So you're forced to either move to an own brand model to pad that initial margin, or you have to radically reduce returns through intense pre-purchase education.
Which I guess brings up the drop shipping illusion. Because, the internet is just full of influencers claiming generic dropshipping is the ultimate hack for gadget e-commerce. But the source basically dismisses it entirely for this category, doesn't it?
Completely dismisses it. The mechanics of generic electronics dropshipping make it fundamentally uncompetitive today. I mean, we just established those margins sit around 10 to 20%, which cannot support paid ads.
Right.
But more importantly, modern buyers cross-reference everything.
Ah.
If you are dropshipping some generic smartwatch from Alibaba, you have this massive 14-day shipping window and zero proprietary third-party video reviews.
Yeah, there's no trust there.
Exactly. The modern consumer spots that immediately, and your conversion rate just drops to near zero.
So the viable path with the highest upside really is building your own brand. And the guide cites electric e-bikes as this prime example, right? Like, they scaled to $1 billion completely bootstrapped by rigorously owning their brand and keeping strict margin discipline.
Which is incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
But opting for that own brand model introduces what the playbook describes as a hidden gauntlet. And this is where the supply chain usually murders first-time founders before they even go live.
Yeah, the calendar is usually the first trap they fall into. Founders often fail to project the massive blackout windows in Asian manufacturing.
Like Chinese New Year.
Exactly. If you don't front-load your inventory ahead of Chinese New Year in late January or Golden Week in October, the factories just shut down for weeks. You run out of stock, your ad pixel data decays because you have to pause your campaigns, and your momentum is just dead.
That's terrifying. And you also have to do audits, right?
You really do. You have to mandate third-party factory audits using firms like SGS or QIMA. It costs a few $100s to verify the factory actually exists and meets labor standards, rather than just blindly trusting some polished Alibaba profile.
Okay, but the real terror, the thing that actually bankrupts people, is the compliance wall.
Yeah.
Want to look at the lithium-ion battery regulations, UN 3481. Why is this so incredibly difficult to navigate?
Because lithium-ion batteries pose a severe thermal runaway risk, especially in the pressurized cargo hold of an airplane.
Right, they catch fire.
Yeah, if a battery is poorly manufactured or gets damaged, it can self-heat and ignite. So consequently, global shipping networks classify them as literal hazardous materials. You cannot just slap a standard shipping label on a box of batteries.
No way. So what do you have to do?
You must have carrier-approved hazmat accounts. You need specific warning labels on the master cartons that indicate the battery's exact watt-hour rating. And if you violate these rules, customs won't just delay your shipment.
What do they do?
They will quarantine it and potentially destroy the entire shipment at your expense.
Oh my God. Okay, wait. I have to push back here on behalf of a listener who might be thinking about sourcing. Because if I find a factory in Shenzhen that is already manufacturing, thousands of these wireless chargers, they already have the FCC or CE certifications. Why does the guide insist I need to budget up to $15,000 for compliance testing per SKU? Can't I just ask the factory for their PDF and just, inherit it?
I hear that all the time.
Okay.
That is a common and honestly catastrophic assumption. Think of compliance documentation like a passport. You can't travel internationally using your roommate's passport just because you both live in the same apartment.
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. Customs doesn't just check if the factory is capable of making a safe product. They check if the importer of record holds the liability. If you are putting your own logo on that charger, you are the importer. The compliance certificates must match your specific brand name and your specific SKU.
So if I get audited?
If Amazon or Shopify or U.S. Customs audits you, and your brand name isn't on that FCC radio frequency authorization or the Prop 65 chemical reports, your inventory is seized, or your product listings just get permanently taken down.
Wow. You own the liability.
Yeah.
That explains why the testing is mandatory. And that completely changes how we have to calculate product costs. Because the playbook dissects this illusion of the FOB price, right? Free on board, the factory quotes you $20 FOB. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, free on board just means the factory's responsibility ends the exact moment the goods are loaded onto a shipping vessel at their local port. So that $20 covers manufacturing the item and getting it to a boat in Shenzhen. The buyer assumes all the risk and all the cost from that second onward.
Right, and the gap between that FOB price and your actual landed cost is massive. You've got ocean freight, cargo insurance, customs brokers, your 3PL pick and pack fees. But the real margin killer for U.S. imports right now are the Section 301 tariffs.
Oh, absolutely. Those are huge.
Yeah, these are specific duties applied to goods originating from China. And depending on the harmonized tariff schedule code that your gadget falls under, you're suddenly paying an extra 7.5 to 25% tax straight to the government. So that $20 FOB charger, it actually costs over $30 by the time it hits your warehouse shelves.
And remember, you still haven't spent a single dollar on marketing yet. This is exactly why understanding landed cost is non-negotiable.
Okay, so let's pivot to the storefront. You've navigated the hazmat shipping, you've paid the tariffs, the inventory is secure in the warehouse. Now you actually have to convince an insanely picky, research-driven tech consumer to click buy. And the guide is really ruthless about what makes a high-converting product detail page, the BDP. Because they say gadget buyers don't buy vibes, they buy specs.
That's right. Gadget buyers are inherently skeptical. The playbook outlines 6 uncompromisable elements for a product page. First, you need a dense, unstyled HTML specification table above the fold. Dimensions, battery capacity, ports, supported codecs, all of it.
Give them the raw data.
Exactly. Second, you need a direct comparison matrix against your nearest alternative.
I thought that comparison piece was such a brilliant defensive strategy. Because if you don't tell the buyer exactly how your charger compares to, say, the leading Anker charger, they will just open a new tab, go to Reddit, and look it up themselves, and you've just lost them from your funnel.
Exactly the mechanism at play. You have to keep them on your domain. Along with that, you need a clearly stated warranty, a compatibility matrix that explicitly lists supported phone models or operating systems.
So they don't guess if it works for them.
Right. And finally, a short product demo video proving the device actually functions in a real-world setting.
But, okay, here's the element that jumped out to me the most. The in-the-box list. It's arguably the simplest conversion tool mentioned in the whole guide.
It's surprisingly effective.
It really is. It's like IKEA listing exactly how many wooden dowels and hex keys are included in a flat-pack desk. It preemptively cures buyer anxiety. A consumer looking at a $150 microphone doesn't want to sit there wondering if they also need to go buy an XLR cable to make it actually work. Listing the exact box contents prevents these entirely avoidable returns.
Yeah, transparency is the ultimate sales tool here, and the playbook is equally rigid about what you must exclude from your page. Technical buyers, they do not care about a flowery lifestyle narrative or the founder's emotional journey above the fold.
Right, keep the life story out of it.
Exactly. They need to know if the device supports fast charging before they care about why you started the company.
So to facilitate all this technical data, what does the Shopify software stack actually look like for these brands?
The guide specifically recommends native themes, like Horizon, because they handle those heavy spec tables and augmented reality features really well without requiring massive amounts of custom code.
AR features,
Like
3D modeling.
Yeah, AR is incredibly vital for overcoming what the playbook calls form factor anxiety. If someone is buying a monitor arm or a desk lamp, they need to visualize the physical footprint in their specific workspace.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. Furthermore, you must rely on review apps that prioritize photo and video uploads. Gadget consumers just don't trust 5-star text reviews anymore. They need to see a shaky smartphone video of a real customer unboxing the item and plugging it in.
Authenticity over polish. Okay, so the customer watches the unboxing video, they check the specs, they hit purchase. The transaction clears. But the source makes it painfully clear that in consumer electronics, capturing the revenue is really only half the battle. Your actual profit margin is decided in the aftermath.
Yeah, the post-purchase environment is hostile. Let's look at returns first. Because we know the volume is going to be high, managing returns manually through some support email address is operational suicide.
It just doesn't scale.
It doesn't. You need an automated RMA engine, platforms like Loop or Returnly. The mechanism here is self-service. When customers can initiate their own returns, print their own shipping labels, and see their refund status, it eliminates 40 to 60% of your baseline support tickets.
Wow, half your ticket's gone. And if you are going to charge a restocking fee on non-defective opened items, which the guide says is standard practice to recover those hygiene or install failure costs, you have to display that fee on the product page before the purchase. Because if you surprise a buyer with a 15% deduction on their refund later, they aren't going to argue with you. They will bypass you entirely and just file a chargeback with their credit card company.
And that transitions us perfectly to the tech support load and the fraud risk, because the volume of post-purchase inquiries is staggering. People asking, will this hub work with my specific router? Or why isn't the app pairing?
Just Endless questions.
Endless. The guide calculates that without a searchable knowledge base, pre-written macro responses, and an AI triage tool like Gorgias or RiaMaze to intercept the basic queries, a solo founder will hit absolute ticket overload at just 30 to 50 orders a day.
That is so low. A fraud. Fraud is the real silent killer here. The playbook notes that gadgets carry roughly double the e-commerce average for chargebacks. If you are selling high OV items, so average order values over $200, you are an instant target for organized fraud rings. So how do these mandatory defense mechanisms actually work?
Well, the baseline is address verification systems and CVV matching. That simply ensures the person entering the car actually knows the billing zip code and the security code, but the heavy artillery, that's 3D Secure, or 3DS.
Okay, so how does 3DS fundamentally change the liability for the seller?
So 3DS adds a secondary layer of authentication directly between the consumer and their bank, like sending a one-time text code to their phone during checkout. Because the bank verified the user's identity, the liability for a fraudulent chargeback shifts away from you, the merchant, and onto the card issuer.
Oh, wow. That's massive.
It is absolute armor for high-ticket items. You pair that with requiring a signature on delivery, and you're in a much better spot. But the ultimate defense for electronics specifically, capturing the serial number at the point of fulfillment.
See, that detail is brilliant. It's essentially leaving a tracking device on it. It's like selling high-ticket electronics without these controls is like leaving your car running with the doors unlocked in a bad neighborhood.
That's exactly what it's like.
Because there is this huge gray market scam, right? A buyer purchases your pristine $300 gadget, then initiates a return, but they send back a broken out-of-warranty unit that they bought on eBay 3 years ago.
Happens all the time.
But if you scan the serial number on the box as it leaves your 3PL warehouse, you have indisputable proof of exactly which unit you shipped. When they send back the broken one, the serial numbers won't match, and you instantly win the dispute.
Yeah, it creates a closed loop of accountability. You simply cannot run a high-ticket tech brand without serial tracking. The fraud will eat your margin alive.
Okay, so we have the defensive perimeter established. We've got automated returns, AI triage, 3DS liability shifts, and serial tracking. Now, how do we actually pump the right traffic into this system? Because the guide draws a very hard line between high-intent channels and interruption channels.
Yeah. The core marketing truth for consumer electronics is that they are considered research-heavy purchases. Feed interruption channels, like scrolling through Meta or TikTok and having an ad pop up, they rarely convert cold traffic for high-ticket gadgets.
Right. Nobody impulse buys a $400 drone because of a TikTok dance.
Exactly. Those platforms are useful for retargeting someone who already visited your site, or maybe for moving very cheap impulse accessories, but they cannot carry a premium brand on their own.
The high-intent lives where people are actively searching for solutions. And Google Shopping seems to be the dominant channel here, right? Assuming your product feed is rich with specifications, because the buyer is typing highly specific queries like, a 100-watt GAN charger with dual USB-C.
Yes, exactly. But beyond Google, the real volume movers in this industry rely heavily on third-party validation.
Like what?
Like sending PR units to YouTube reviewers in that, say, 50,000 to 500,000 subscriber range, or integrating with affiliate networks like Skimlinks to get featured in Wirecutter-style roundup articles, and perhaps most uniquely, engaging directly in enthusiast forums.
The playbook specifically highlights Reddit and Discord for that.
Oh.
But, I look at Reddit communities, and they are notoriously hostile to brands stepping into market products.
Yeah.
How does a small, bootstrapped brand possibly compete on Reddit without getting eaten alive by the community?
It really comes down to the mechanism of trust in tech communities. If we connect this to the bigger picture, they value raw authenticity way above polish. The rule the playbook establishes is that founder-led honest participation thrives, while agency-led astroturfing is fatal.
Astroturfing.
Yeah. Astroturfing, where a marketing agency creates fake accounts to artificially hype a product, will be uncovered by the community in hours, and it results in an instant permanent ban.
Because they will just pull the account history and see the user was dormant for 3 years before suddenly posting about how great this mechanical keyboard is.
Precisely. They investigate everything. But if the actual founder enters a highly technical subreddit, admits the flaws in their first-generation prototype, answers complex engineering questions, and genuinely solicits feedback, the community dynamics completely flip.
They respect the honesty.
They do. They will often champion the product because they feel a sense of ownership in its development. It has to be treated as a long-term relationship channel, not just a place to dump promotional links.
That is a masterclass in audience psychology right there. Well, we have covered an incredible amount of operational terrain today. So what does this all mean? The takeaway here is that succeeding in gadget e-commerce requires an immense amount of discipline. You have to pick a specific category lane and understand its unique failure points. You have to ruthlessly own your product pages with hard specs and unboxing videos. And above all, you have to respect the brutal reality of margins, compliance liability, and the hazardous material logistics of lithium batteries.
It is a gauntlet that demands serious operational maturity, but I would add this. Even if you never plan to open a Shopify store, understanding this hidden machinery makes you a vastly smarter consumer. You now know exactly why a brand is asking for a 15% restocking fee on opened audio gear.
Right.
You understand why your package might have taken an extra week in customs, or why a support desk is demanding a video of the defect before authorizing a return. You are seeing the actual mechanics of global e-commerce.
These really are.
Yeah.
It completely strips away the magic and shows you all the gears turning underneath.
It does. And actually, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Next time you're scrolling your feed and you see a seemingly incredible, dirt cheap electronic gadget advertised, think about the hidden math we discussed today. Think about the 30% import tariffs, the expensive lithium battery hazmat shipping, the $15,000 it costs to legitimately pass FCC and chemical compliance tests. If they are somehow selling that device to you for $25, what safety corners did they secretly cut to get it to your door?
Oh, wow. That is a deeply unsettling question, but absolutely essential to ask. It really reframes the true cost of cheap electronics. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden supply chains and storefronts of the gadget world. Keep questioning what goes into the products you buy and stay curious. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.